Was there really a 1,000-year period where the church suppressed all scientific progress? Did religion plunge Europe into a so-called Dark Age? Or is this story more myth than fact? In this documentary, we're diving deep into the history of the Middle Ages to uncover the truth about science, religion, and one of the most misunderstood periods in Western history. Let's start with the myth itself. The idea that the Middle Ages were a time of intellectual darkness when science stagnated under the oppressive rule of the Church originates not in the Middle Ages, but in the Enlightenment. Draper's 19th century work painted a dramatic picture of a battle between dogmatic religion and liberating science. He claimed the Church stifled intellectual freedom until science finally broke free during the Renaissance. However, modern historians have challenged this narrative. Lindbergh and others argue that the so-called Dark Ages weren't as dark as we once thought. Far from suppressing knowledge, the Church was Europe's primary preserver of learning after the fall of the Roman Empire. Monasteries and cathedral schools became centers of literacy and scholarship. Benedictine monks meticulously copied classical texts, including those by Greek philosophers and Roman scientists. Leclerc describes how monasteries were not just religious centers, but intellectual hubs. While Europe was stabilizing after the collapse of Rome, the Islamic world became the custodian of ancient Greek science. From the 8th to the 12th century, Muslim scholars translated and built upon the works of Aristotle, Ptolemy, and Galen. The transmission of this knowledge back to Europe, especially through Spain and Sicily, set the stage for a renaissance of learning. By the 12th century, Europe saw the rise of universities in Paris, Bologna, Oxford, and elsewhere. These institutions were often church-sponsored and became homes to scientific inquiry. Courses in the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy were core components of the medieval curriculum. Grant argues that the integration of reason and faith in the university setting created fertile ground for scientific thought. Medieval scholars often pursued science to better understand God's creation. The belief was that the universe operated under divine order and that humans could uncover these laws through observation and reason. Aquinas harmonized Aristotelian philosophy with Christian theology. He believed in the compatibility of reason and faith. Hannam reveals how figures like Roger Bacon and Albertus Magnus advanced experimental methods centuries before the scientific revolution. The Church's relationship with astronomy is often reduced to one event, the trial of Galileo. But centuries before Galileo, medieval clergy made substantial contributions to astronomy. This widely used textbook on astronomy was authored by a monk. Grant notes that astronomy was an essential subject in church-sponsored universities. Clerics charted planetary motion and corrected calendars. The Church's role in medicine is complex. On one hand, some religious taboos discouraged human dissection. On the other, church-run hospitals were among the best in medieval Europe. This Benedictine abbess compiled extensive medical texts combining classical knowledge with herbal remedies. Ceraci notes that medical schools like those in Salerno and Montpellier flourished under church patronage. No discussion of church and science is complete without Galileo, but this infamous trial was more about politics than science. Galileo argued for the compatibility of Scripture and Copernican theory. Finocchiaro provides primary documents that reveal the complex political and theological dynamics at play. So where did the war between science and religion narrative come from? The answer lies in the Enlightenment and later 19th century polemics. White's influential but flawed work set the tone for centuries of misunderstanding. Harrison argues that the modern concept of science as opposed to religion is a relatively recent invention. So did the Church suppress science for 1,000 years? The evidence tells a far more nuanced story. Medieval Europe saw the preservation of ancient knowledge, the rise of universities, and the flourishing of natural philosophy, all under church influence. Far from being enemies, faith and reason were often allies in the pursuit of understanding the natural world. The myth of a dark age is just that, a myth born not of history, but of ideology. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments what topic you'd like us to explore next. And remember, history is rarely black and white. Sometimes the truth is found in the gray.